This is going to be, we're going to be editing some footage from Jason. Jason was an employee here at ASAP for a number of years. He graduated this past year. So what you're going to do is just open up Premiere.
If you have Final Cut, is Final Cut better?
No.
No.
Casey Neistat uses.
Yeah, he used to use iMovie.
He did.
Use that.
Great, so you're going to be greeted with this screen right here. You have a couple of options: new project, open project, team project. This is a great feature of Adobe Creative Cloud. It enables you to essentially work on one file with multiple people simultaneously, kind of like a Google Doc. Really, really great. I've never actually used that. It looks cool. I'm gonna make a new project, and I'm just gonna call it tutorial Jason interview. Great. No reason to really touch any of this other stuff, and then just hit OK. Great. Then you're going to be met with quite a few different windows. To import media, pretty simple. Just import media to start. I'm going to double click. I have the Jason interview in here, but you will have the same files. I'm using 21, 16, and the audio file. I'm going to import those. They're going to load.
Do we need it automatically started downloading media encoder CC? Do we need that?
Yes. Well, yes. So actually, you'll notice this in a second. If you when you download the Creative Cloud app, in the upper right, there's going to be a Creative Cloud button. I actually have to sign in. This app enables you to download all of the different programs that you might be using eventually. When you export videos, especially, it's fascinating, when you export videos, especially from After Effects, it goes through the media encoder. That's really helpful, mostly because it allows you to export the video in an app separate from the editing app. It just keeps things running smoothly. So right now I have three different files within the project panel. So what I'm going to do is make a new sequence. So right now this is the timeline section. There is no time sequence. So to make one, I'm going to first preview our different clips. So right now I have this one. If I double click, one more try. Double click, it'll load it up into the source panel, which lets you preview your footage. So I can go through and see Jason all happy and talking and all that fun jazz. So what I'm going to do is drag this clip into the timeline to make a new sequence, right? So this is just a preview, whereas this is the actual film that you're making. So if you notice, it's loading it up with two separate tracks. One is for video, one is for audio, and you can expand those to view them in more detail. If you'll notice, this one has no audio in it. So if I play it, you're going to notice you can't hear anything. This is worst case scenario. If you're actually filming an interview, this is the worst. This is kind of hell for most people who are editing. Some people don't mind it. I do, mostly because it just makes the job of syncing up the external audio a lot harder. The other clip right here, which I'm going to preview, is more of a head-on shot. You can see this one actually has audio, although the audio isn't exporting properly. Oh, it should be. Where? Oh, I'm muted, that's why. I'm not muted. ¿Por qué? Oh, and I'm going to die. I'm going to go get my charger. Right back.
My computer should definitely not be able to handle it.
No, these are really big files.
It's like
How old's your computer?
late 2013.
Perfect.
Oh,
So,
I hope mine can handle it. Huh? Do you think Premiere Pro will run fine on this thing?
it's going to be a little sluggish.
What if the PX? I downloaded a free one and it was absolutely awful. The lag time was. It was like hotkey or something like that, or
Wait a minute.
I can't read it.
What's going on here? Why? It's playing audio, but there's no audio. Who? Is this you? What's going on?
No, it's not. Does it look like it's me?
Oh, it's because this is playing. Never mind. Sorry. A free what exactly?
I can't. It was like one of the best downloads for free editing software I could find.
It's not going to be the same, but it'll be a similar mentality.
It was just super laggy. Like
was it?
Whenever I hit play, it was
This
like
is a little bit. This may run a little bit better.
smoother.
Yeah, it could. So with this, you have your what's it called? Your sequence, right, which is showing you kind of the actual footage. And if you notice, it's a little bit sluggish. If I hit play, it's going to run fine, but as I drag through, the previews take a second to load up. I can actually turn down the quality of the preview to something like a half. This comes in handy for if you're shooting in like 4K. Sometimes computers can't really handle that, especially laptops. So if you turn down the quality, it helps with the previews like a lot. You can hit play, and it runs fine. But there's still no audio. So what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to unlink. So right now, if I cut the video, the audio clip also cuts. But I don't really want that because I just don't want audio at all. So what I'm going to actually do is undo that, right-click, and unlink them. When I do that, now the video is separate from the audio. So I can delete the audio clip and then load in the other piece of footage. If it'll let me.
So you right click and click. Right?
Yes, unlink. That will separate it.
And delete the audio.
Yep, great. Because there's no audio. But what you'll notice here, I do have to fix this audio problem now. Is the volume turned up on this thing?
What's your output on that? If you go to
No, I know. Yeah, it's currently on conference room. Maybe I'll just try the internal speakers. There we go. So you can just hear it off my laptop. So, right now, what you're hearing is the audio out of the camera. It's not very good. So what I'm going to do right now is actually ignore this second clip right here that we started out with, and we're going to sync up the main shot, which is this one here, with the recorded audio on the separate recorder. And if you'll notice again, down here, the audio is linked with the video. So what I'm going to do is load in the separate audio clip. And if you'll notice, it looks a little bit nicer, and it's going to sound a lot nicer. So to sync up the clip with the external audio, which again, this clip has no audio. This clip here under the video tab is linked with this audio here. So these two, if I move one, the other one also moves. They're linked. But we're going to leave them linked for right now because what I'm going to do is select this. This came from the external recorder. I can play that out.
Specific, we had very specific program, very specific.
Right. So this is the magic move. To sync up the audio, I'm going to select this piece of footage in the external audio, and I'm going to hold Shift, click, so that they're all selected except for this one here. Don't worry about that one yet. And then right-click on them and just hit Synchronize.
Wait, can you do that again?
Yep. So you just right-click on any of them, of the ones selected, as well as the audio clip. Yep, good. Right-click on them.
No. Not the other.
Yeah, not the middle clip. Yes, there you go. Good. Right-click on those, and then hit Synchronize.
So you kind of highlight both of them and then hit right click.
Sync,
and
sync, right. And then you have the option to sync via clip start, clip end, time code. Time code's useful if you're filming on multiple cameras and you have the option to input a custom time code, which I'm assuming none of us have. I certainly don't. So we're gonna sync it based on audio. I'm gonna hit OK, and then it's gonna process, it's gonna think, it's gonna look, it's gonna look, it's gonna find, it's gonna think, it's gonna look. And fingers crossed.
How trustworthy is it?
Pretty much almost always dead on. Yep, there it is. It's perfect. Now, the reason being is this peak right here. That clap. The point of that clap is in the video audio and the other audio, it's pretty much almost perfect. It's not actually dead on, though. So what I can do is adjust this so slightly. That's a little bit better. So now if you notice, thank you. Next. So I'll be asking you to zoom in and out on the timeline. You just pinch in and out and it'll zoom. Just like that. Very useful. So what I'm going to do now is have you listen to a comparison between, this is the audio out of the camera. A whole bunch of questions. This is him talking. Here we go.
Years in which I ended up being
This is out of the camera
manager,
versus out of
ran the store a couple
the external.
times.
Oh, shit.
I
Sorry.
transferred to Orange Foster as my second job, and I've been there for about 7 years now.
The external microphone
Where I've been a deli manager, store manager, assistant
versus the
manager,
camera.
manager trainer.
That's why we put the
captain,
loud mic
and
on
all
right
the
here.
fun stuff that
Sounds a lot better.
really is required to operate a store.
So I'm gonna actually
And that's been fun.
mute. Well, now now that everything is all set, I'm gonna right click on the bottom track, so the audio that came with the top video, and just unlink those. So now each piece here is its own individual segment. I'm actually also going to drag this up a little bit. Good. Now I don't need this bottom clip anymore, so I'm just going to delete that. So now I'm just left with these three. Now I'm faced with the final issue. The audio is synced with the top clip, but if I hit the little I button, it toggles the view, so then it hides the top clip. If I hit play, the audio is all wrong. Right?
Next.
You hear him talking, but
2005. Since 2007, I've been a manager.
so it's not synced up yet. So to sync them up, you're gonna have to do it visually. So what I know is that there's a clap right. Yeah.
Repeat the question.
What exactly? Where's that clap? Right here.
Nickname.
Right. So I'm gonna find that clap visually in this B camera. So I'm gonna have to go through. I'm gonna mute this for right now, so it's not bothering me.
Wait, how do you know any claps on this one?
You just gotta look for it.
Yeah, it's not showing his hands.
You'll be able to notice. I've done this once. I can do it again. Come on, Jason. Stop smiling. Let's see here. So again, I'm really only showing you this clip because it's going to be helpful to notice in case you do lose audio, to know how to sync up a clip with no audio. So one way that you can look and find a sync point is he's scratching his eyebrow right here. Again, that's something out of the ordinary. That's something that you can look for. So if I actually if I'm looking at this here, I'm going to mark it by hitting M. Nope. Yes. Yeah, M. Should be able to mark it right here. Name. Scratch. Good. So now I have a marker which isn't showing up for some reason. That's very strange. Oh, there it is. Great. So on there's a marker on the B-roll where he scratches his forehead. See that marker down there?
Yep.
Right. That marker is going to help me out in a minute. So I'm going to turn back on the main camera and find the point where he scratches his forehead. Come on, Jason. Come on. Oh, there's where he clapped. There it is, right there. So now we found it. So now I'm going to find, so we know that it's roughly there. So now I'm going to take this, mark it there. I'm going to zoom in. Now this is kind of a cool trick. What I want to do is be able to see both clips simultaneously, both the A camera and the B camera. So what I'm going to do is actually turn down the opacity of the A camera so that we can look through them. So actually, if this is a good segue, this is showing a source preview in the first tab. The second tab is the effects controls. So based on which clip I'm selected, right? For example, B camera, A camera, audio, we have different effects settings. So what I'm going to do is click on the A camera, go into the effects controls, then turn down the opacity to about 50, right? So now, this isn't going to be exactly clear, but I'm going to zoom in a bit, fit it. What I'm going to do is look and find the exact point. So it looks like on the B camera, his fingers contact his eyebrow right there. So what I'm going to do is mark that point on there. I'm going to find the point on the A camera where his fingers contact the eyebrow. Looks to be right about there. Good. I'm going to mark that. And now I know exactly where the two clips need to line up. Beautiful. Good. So now, if I turn the opacity back up again, oop, that wasn't good.
So it automatically does the top one? Whatever video is on top of it.
Whatever video is on top, it will automatically show preference to. So this is another good segue, thank you, Jacob, into layer stacking. So picture, why does it keep doing that?
Jason, take note.
Nice. Turn that off. Okay, good. That's a great segue. So layers, especially like these here, mostly video, right? They stack vertically where the topmost layer takes preference. For example, if I have the first track on the bottom, followed by the next track on top of that, you're gonna see the top track with preference over the bottom track. Good analogy. Anyway, now let's see if the audio lines up. I'm going to turn off the top camera and check. That's muted still.
Treat it like you're just making a statement. Okay, then also...
Dignan. I am a senior new media student at the University of Maine. I am also work at ASAP Media Services.
It doesn't look right on there, but on mine it's right on. Then on, if I toggle it back again, you'll notice
I've done that since January. When I joined up with the University of Maine, I actually was part of the computer science program.
It's a good segue. Also, if you want to full screen your final footage, you just hit the little squiggly line button up here. I forget the name of it. Tilde. That one there. You hit, so you select the window. Why am I doing this? Select the window there, and then just hit the tilde, and it'll full screen it.
For about my first year. And then I discovered that was not for me.
Great. So now, what do we have? We have three clips all lined up pretty much perfectly. Great. Now, one of the biggest things that you got to remember is we're not going to link them. Because if we link them, if we cut one, everything's going to cut, right? So we're going to leave them all free floating, where they're all going to be able to move independently. But if we move one, it's going to move it out of sync. So remember not to move your clips. Keep them in line. What I'm going to do now is, in order to go from camera to camera back and forth without actually deleting footage, what I'm going to wind up doing is creating, so there's actually 3 video layers, V1, V2, and V3. I'm going to hide the third layer. Here's why I'm going to do that. Say, for example, there's a point in here, like...
Go for it. My name is Jason Dick.
So, for example, say he says...
Go for it. My name is Jason Dignan. I am a senior new media student at the University of Maine. I am also...
Right, and he says also. Now, for example, if that was a point that I wanted to cut and switch cameras, instead of... I'll get to like all of this stuff in a second. Instead of cutting out a frame and then deleting it, I can just drag it up into the lane above, which is going to hide it because this whole lane is hidden, right? So right now you'll see that it does.
Media student at the University of Maine. I am also work at ASAP Media.
It cuts, even though that footage still exists. It's just hidden.
So did you cut it on both sides before you moved it up to that?
Yeah. Now let me show you how to cut. Pretty important. The two major buttons that you're going to be using is C and V. C is to cut, right, which actually pops up with like a little razor blade picture there instead of the icon, versus V is to select, right? So pretty straightforward. What you're going to do is hit C, click,
When
play
I
until you
joined up
want
with the
the back cut
University
to
of Maine,
end.
I actually was part of the...
Like maybe
Sounded-
there, cut it again, and if I hit V, then I can drag up and move a clip around. And if you have one of the newer Macs, you'll actually notice that as your cursor hits certain points, like if, for example, the cursor hits there, if you drag it down, wherever you move the clip, you'll actually feel feedback in the trackpad. So that'll work on yours, and both of yours in the back. You have a Windows PC. It's okay. Anyway, it's an added thing. So this is good. Where we're at right now is pretty good. What I'm going to do is actually edit it like I would in real life. So play
The
through.
question.
Well, exactly.
Repeat the question, the answer.
So,
Yes.
Right.
Give me your name again, a bit about yourself, your major.
Camera to change, like, in an interview, like, what's a good time to have it change?
I'll get into that.
Started going here, what your interests are. Just go for it.
Great. So this is the beginning of the interview. This is where he says...
My name is Jason Dignan. I am a senior new media student at the University of Maine.
Great. So this is where I wanted to start. So what I'm going to do is, I know that I wanted to start right there. So I'm going to cut right down the line, cut that clip, cut that clip, cut that clip, hit V, select all of that. Now this is the important part. We're going to, instead of just hitting delete, where we now have all this dead space, right, all right there, what I'm going to do is right click and ripple delete. That's going to shift everything down to the leftmost clip, which began at the beginning. So right now it just opens up with a cold start.
My name is Jason Dignan. I am a senior new media student at the University of Maine.
And again, we're getting the precedence to the A camera head on. However, I like to fade it in from black. This is something that I actually didn't... What just happened? Okay. This is something that I actually only started to use about a year ago because I didn't entirely know about it. When you first open up a clip, it's going to look like that, right? They're all going to be all nice and squished down, which is nice if you have tons of clips. But when you only have this many, it's really helpful to expand them by dragging up on their lanes. The reason why this is going to be so helpful is it actually gives you access to these white lines that run all the way down there. And they're actually not just for looks. What they actually affect on video is the opacity, and on audio is the volume. So say I want to fade in from black. What I'm going to do is actually, if you notice it, as I drag this line up and down, the opacity of that clip shifts. So right now I'm going to like 70, and the opacity goes down, 42, 21, what have you, right? So I'm going to keep that all the way up.
I don't have these lines.
Yes, you do.
Do you have those lines?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so right click on, do you see the little FX box right there? Do you see the little FX box right there, Jake?
Yeah.
Right click on that, go down to opacity, and tap on that. There you go. Good. So, what I'm going to do now is I want it to fade up from black, right? One way that I want to do that is say after, we'll say 5 seconds, I'm going to hit the space bar and watch the time code right here.
My name is Jason Dignan. I am a senior new media student.
I'm going to say 2 seconds. It should, well, less than that.
My name is Jason Dignan.
Right, so right there we should be fully up. So I'm going to do is zoom in slightly, and after hitting V to go over to the selection tool, hold Command and click on where the time scrubber and the opacity bar meet. So at that intersection right there, and that'll make a keyframe. I'm also going to make one somewhere else. Point of keyframes is it allows you to shift how that horizontal line looks. So what that'll
Would you hit to put that keyframe in there?
So you hold Command or Control on your computer, and then just click to place a keyframe. Keyframes are actually a really profound use, and one of the bigger points in all of the Adobe products which handles video. So now I have these 2 keyframes. What I'm going to do is take this one, and I can move it around, right? I'm going to move that one down and over into the corner. So I'm moving it all the way down to 0 on the timeline, as well as 0 on the opacity. So what that's going to do is it's going to fade up from totally
My name is
transparent
Jason Dignan.
up to being viewable. The issue is I'm seeing the background, right? So again, I'm going to cut the...
My name is...
I'm seeing the bottom track through the top track, right? But I don't want that. I want it to be fading up from black. So I'm going to take the bottom track, cut it around there, and drag it up into the hidden lane. So now
My name is Jason Dignan.
it fades up from black.
My name is Jason Dignan. I am a senior new media...
Great. Next, I'm going to want a title card. So it'll have his name on there so people know who we're talking about. To do that, there's actually a little text tool down here, or you can just hit T. What you're going to do is, I would say scrub forward a bit, figure out where you want to put it. I usually like to put it either right next to their head or down near their shoulder area. Just make it look nice. So I'm going to do, click, drag, make a box for the text. This usually glitches out slightly. I'm going to save this right now so I don't lose it. Jason Dignan. I don't really know if I'm spelling that right, but some important points, and I actually did this. I did this wrong on my interviews on childhood dreams. Whenever you do a title card, make sure that it's sans serif, meaning that the font should be something like Futura is a good example, or Helvetica. Why not? Great. This is sans serif. It's easy on the eyes, and it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to drag his name down to somewhere a little bit lower, like there. Pretty good. Okay. I'm actually also going to bold it and center it up. So, like the video, the opacity of that text can also be adjusted with that same line. So what I'm going to do is...
My name is Jason Dignan.
Right. So right after he says his name,
Jason Dignan.
I'm going to begin to fade up the text from black. So I'm going to, again, hit Command, click again, drag that second point down to 0 on the opacity and all the way at the beginning of the clip. So now it'll fade up from
Dignan. I am a
black. I don't know how clear that is.
Dignan. I am a...
No, that isn't very low. I'm going to make that a little bit more clear. Okay.
Jason Dignan. I am a senior new media student at the University of Maine.
And then at some point, I want it to fade from fully in view back down to black again. I'm going to hold Command and make 2 keyframes and do the same thing, just opposite. So now
I am also
it fades
work.
out.
What are you fading out right now?
The text.
Oh, okay.
It's more clear on my screen. Ready?
Indignant. I am a senior new media student
It's
at
in.
the University of Maine. I am also
And then it fades out.
work at ASAP Media Services, which I've done that since January. When I joined up,
So, now when to cut. People get bored very quickly when it comes to interviews. For this class, we usually don't. I mean, you might not have access to two cameras, so you might not have really a choice here. But we're gonna get some B-roll really quick, just for the sake of example. Hello, my subscriptions. Okay. I'm looking up B-roll of Tech Lab. Great. Doesn't really matter. I'm just going to download some footage from a laboratory because why not? Usually, of course, your B-roll should have something to do with the interview as a whole. It should be reflective of what the person's talking about in that moment. So your example, if they're making syrup, right? If they say we have to tap the syrup with a certain kind of hammer, show the actual footage of them tapping the tap with a hammer. So start the download. What I'm going to do now is cut it. So people get bored of a clip. That's weird. Come back. Uh-oh, we glitched.
student at the University of Maine,
All right. Whoa, get out of here.
which I've done that since January. When I joined up with the University of Maine, I actually
Okay.
am also work at ASAP Media Services, which I've done that since January.
So if you notice here, right, try to make their audio sound smooth, connected. In this case, listen here.
I am also work at ASAP Media Services, which I've done that since January. When I joined up with the university,
So at this point, it's been 11 seconds, and the viewer is starting to get visually bored. If you notice in a lot of movies, most actual takes only last about 20 seconds at the most, right? If you look at like a Michael Bay film, he cuts every 3 to 4 seconds. It's crazy, but what we're gonna do now is switch camera angles. So again, I'm just gonna cut it here. And then hit, so C to cut, V to select, drag that clip up to the non-viewing section, and now we've cut.
since January. When I joined up with the University of Maine, I actually was part of the computer science program for about my first year. And then I discovered that was not for me for a variety of reasons, and I transferred over to media. At which point I realized I didn't have a clue what new media was before I went into it.
So again, he took a breath. So you actually can see when he's going to be taking a breath in the audio waveform down here. So I can tell you that he's
New
going to
media
take a
was
breath
before I went
right
into it.
here. It's a good place to then cut that footage again, bring it back down again, and now we've cut back to the other camera.
Clue what new media was before I went into it. Simply sounded cool and sounded like something that I wanted to do, but didn't really have a clue what it was specifically. So, but as I got into it, I discovered it was more of the thing that I like to do, and it's what I wanted to do, and it's what I've been always doing. So, it seemed like the perfect fit so far. As far as my schooling, it's wow.
Right. Again, sometimes they'll just kind of trail off into their own kind of world. You'll need to learn to mitigate that. Again, we're already 39 seconds in.
So, but as I got into it, I discovered it was more of the thing that I like to do, and it's what I wanted to do, and it's what I've been always doing. So it seemed like the perfect fit so far.
Great. So this is when we should probably switch topics to the next question. Because he's answered the question, he's gone through it, and he talked about why he was in comp sci, now he's in computer science. So again, that's where we're going to cut everything, and this is the only part where you're ever going to delete anything. So I'm going to cut it here and continue on. So I'm actually now cutting all three.
As far as my schooling, it's, wow, wordage. I know you can edit this, so I don't give a shit.
Clearly.
I'm a non-traditional student. I've already had an associate's.
Great. So that's actually an interesting spot to come back in again. So what I'm going to do is then delete all that footage in the middle that we know that we're never going to want. You have the option to make more lanes up top if you really want to keep all of that for later. I know that, again, editing on a laptop is very hard. But if you are, say, for example, like a professional, right? A lot of them deal with screens this big where they can have just 20 lanes all just stacked where they're storing different footage for later. They're just keeping track. So staying organized is very important. For our purposes, we know that we don't want this section here. I'm going to hit V, select this stuff, right click, and again, ripple delete. Reason why we're deleting all three clips is because that keeps everything synced up. So right now, there's going to be a jump.
Seemed like the perfect fit so far.
So that's one of the times where you're going to want to switch from one camera to the other. Because if you look, he's going from
so far
talking, and then he just jumps. So to make that look more natural, what you're going to do is switch to the other camera by moving one of the clips up into the invisible lane. So now,
like the perfect fit so far. I'm a non-traditional student.
It doesn't look like there was a 10-second pause there. It just seems like he was talking, and then he took like a breath, and then he continued.
I've already had an associate's degree at the, oh my gosh, Central Maine Community College.
Again, right? Maybe we want to keep that, oh my gosh, right? But maybe not. So again, you can zoom in some more.
I've already had an associate's degree at the.
So you said at the, took a breath, and you can cut the footage, all three pieces here. Keep it going.
Oh my gosh, Central Maine.
So you got to really come in now. Good. You can take that oh my gosh out. Hit V, select all of those, ripple, delete them, then hide the cut in a camera change. So the cut would be right here, but now we're changing back to the A camera.
The Central Maine Community College.
Comes out clean. Shoot.
When you're transitioning between different shots, do you usually fade or do you have like a hard switch?
Fades are really cliche. A hard switch is much more professional, usually. What you wind up seeing in pretty much every documentary is that the only reason why you would fade is if there was a reason for the fade. Right? So, for example, if you were going from a shot of, if you were trying to make some statement about the wage gap, and you went from a shot of people begging on the street, and you were to fade to people smoking a cigar and drinking champagne, that would be a meaningful fade. But simply fading from one camera into the other, in this case, not necessary unless there's a reason behind it. You could do a fade, and you know how to do that. That's just you turn down the opacity of one as you turn up the opacity of the other. But you already know how to do that. From here, it's a lot of the same stuff. Keep the stuff you don't want, leave the stuff you do, and every time you cut, switch cameras. But again, what you want to be careful of is cutting every 3-4 seconds. That was something that I ran into my first couple of months here at ASAP, was I was cutting back and forth between like every 4 seconds to make their audio sound good, but the video was very distracting. You can cover for that though with B-roll. So, for example, I just downloaded some beautiful B-roll. Import. It's going to import the B-roll. Now, I know that we're not going to want the audio off of this B-roll. Now, I could just drag it right into the timeline and take it out then by unlinking it and then deleting the audio track. But instead, I'm going to right-click on it, go under Source Settings. Kidding. Where is this? Right. Right-click on the piece of B-roll that I have here, and I can preview it just by double-clicking on it. Right-click, modify audio channels, and then you can turn off the left and right channels. Hit OK, and now there's no audio. See that? So then this can be dragged in on the 5th lane. So you can drag it up even higher. And that B-roll, you're going to want to cut it up and find the right stuff for you, the right, clips that match it up. But I'm going to actually, you can trim it down, trim down any clip. If you bring the mouse up to the left side of the clip or the right side, you'll see a red bracket with an arrow. If you just drag that, that'll change the side or the actual cutoff of the beginning and end of that clip. So I'm going to drag this down and do the same thing for the B-roll. I'm actually going to add, well, we'll do that later. For right now, how am I going to do this? Yeah, so part of the problem is now you'll notice that the B-roll is too small. It's not covering the whole frame. You'll see this if you ever use a different camera for your B-roll versus your actual interview footage. So what I'm going to do is click on the B-roll, go under Effects Controls. You have all these nice fun settings. The one that we're going to focus on here is Scale. We're going to scale it up. It scales from the center, and it'll fill the screen.
Where I've been a deli manager, store manager, assistant manager.
So this B-roll is going to be nice. Say, for example, he's talking here, right? But
I'm a non-traditional
we want to mitigate the number of cuts. We want to mitigate the amount of time just looking at him, because eventually just looking at a talking head is going to get very, very boring, which is why B-roll is so important. So at this point, what I'm going to do is actually have another invisible lane, right? And you all know what I mean by invisible lane, right? We're all on the same page on that. All right, cool. What I'm going to do actually is say at this point here,
what I want to do and what I've been always.
Right. At some point, you want to start showing your B-roll. So I'm going to cut the footage, the B-roll here, drag it up into another lane, right? Again, this is all just to stay organized. And you can scroll up and down in the video lane and in your audio lanes, right? And again, I'm going to pull this up even more just to get a better view at it. So now we have B-roll. So at this point, he's talking, and then all of a sudden
like
the switch.
It's what I want to do, and it's what I've been always doing.
To the
so
top feature.
It seemed like the perfect fit so far. I'm a non-traditional student. I've already had an associate's degree at the Central Maine Community College.
And then I might say, all right, we're good. Plenty of B-roll for that area. I can cut it again, hit V, and drag down the rest of that back down into the invisible section. So now we have this piece of B-roll.
That I like to do, and it's what I want to do, and it's what I've been always doing. So it seemed like the perfect fit so far. I'm a non-traditional student. I've already had an associate's degree at the Central Maine Community College. That was just a liberal.
So that's B-roll. Any questions so far? Anything lingering? Anything sticking in your head? Nothing. Nothing at all. We're going to cover one more thing, and that is color correction. So this may not look... Yeah, okay. If you look very closely, do you actually want to turn off the lights, Haley? Great. So if you notice in the background, right, it's not pure black. It's a little bit dimmed gray. That's not ideal. A pure black background, if that's what you're going for, you should probably have that. To achieve that, if you notice, both the A camera and the B camera, and the B camera both have generally the same effect. I'm actually going to drag this down so we can make that a little bit more clear. Both the A camera and the B camera sort of have the same sort of effect where the background should be black, but it's not. So what we're going to add is something called an adjustment layer. It's a layer where everything beneath it is going to affect. So what that means is, what I'm going to do is right click on the import panel here, go new item, and then adjustment layer. Leave everything as it is, right? And then scroll all the way up on your footage, and then if you drag in your adjustment layer, right, it's going to be very, very small. It's only right here. You're going to want to drag that out, really stretch it out, zoom out, and make sure that it covers your entire piece of footage, right? So then, in your adjustment layer, whatever you do to it, it'll affect every clip beneath it. What that means is, if I come in, right, if I select the adjustment layer, and then go under your effects. So your effects, if you notice here, is in a tab down below. My effects are right there. You have all different kinds of different settings. What I'm going to use, though, and you can search for it, is Lumetri color, which if you go under, actually, it's easier if I just do it this way. If I go under video effects, color correction, called Lumetri color. This is my favorite setting that you can use to affect color on in a sequence like this. I'm going to drag that under adjustment layer. So and then you'll notice in your effects controls panel, you have all of the stock stuff like the position, scale, rotation, and all that, but you also have now your Lumetri color. So if I hop forward a bit, I'm now seeing the B camera. I'm going to start out with the A camera because that's my prime focus. So now I want to get this background to look like a true black. To do that, I'm going to go into my Lumetri color while selecting the adjustment layer. Under basic corrections, and you see shadows, whites, and blacks. Blacks, we're going to pull those blacks down. You'll notice the background. Hello. Drag those blacks down from 0. You'll notice that that black background slowly fades away to a true black. You're going to want to make sure that if you're going to do this, this sort of effect with a black background, look out for two things. If they have black hair, like Jason does, it's going to disappear. To avoid that, you're going to want to add a silver lining to their head. You'll do that by placing a light behind them, shining a light on the back of their head, like a dim light, but just enough that it will actually cause a bit of a rim around their head to pop up. So when you do bring down those blacks, you can still see the outline of their head. Very, very important. It's something that I missed here when I shot this a year ago.
Would you recommend trying to get black backgrounds for the interviews, or?
If it's necessary, if it makes sense, right? It depends on who you're interviewing. Mike said it best, the background should most times reflect the content of the interview. So if you're filming somebody who makes sugar or maple syrup, thank you, I couldn't think of the word, you're going to want to maybe film them in the factory or in a forest, next to taps and stuff like that. Don't make it distracting, but the whole reason why there's even a black background is he's totally cut out. So he's the literal only focus in this. There's no distractions at all. You could also do a white background. I actually prefer white backgrounds for interviews. A good example of this, actually, going over to Apple, look at the design video of every iPhone. Where's Johnny Ives? Oh, he's in here. Jesus Christ.
It doesn't support movie files.
What doesn't?
Adobe.
What do you mean?
No, I tried dragging an MOV file in and it said it didn't support it.
Give me one quick second. Oh, it's gone. Cool. Let me see what you're talking about really quick. Don't knock that, please.
But I tried dragging it to my library, so I don't know if maybe I dragged it into the wrong spot.
See.
I just dragged-
Oh, no. So not libraries. Go over to browser.
Okay.
Oh, it's not responding now.
Oh, boy.
No, so if you notice in here, you don't drag it into libraries, you drag it into the project panel, which is right here. See that? So there's libraries here, which isn't, it's something totally different.
Oh, okay.
It's the project panel here that we're talking about. Let me show you an example. Where is
We have
Johnny?
created a product that is the most deliberate evolution of our original founding.
So notice this with Johnny here.
Really increases the probability of good ideas, and when they actually arrive, I think
So
nurtures
the background is so blown out here, right? That it's really forcing you to focus on him. Here we go. This is what I'm talking about.
The MacBook is our most popular Mac. But what we've done, and we've made a habit of doing this at Apple, is we just
I prefer this over a black background. I think it's much more compelling and lighthearted. A black background, in my personal opinion, it's very focused, and you actually can do a lot with it. But again, not my favorite. You lose a lot of the details. And the adjustment layer affects everything. So it doesn't just affect this clip here, it also affects the B camera. I'm sorry, the B-roll. So because the adjustment layer is on top of the B-roll, it's going to affect it. You might not want that. So you might actually switch the B-roll with the adjustment layer to be able to have the B-roll be independent of the effects of the adjustment. If that makes sense. From there,
So when you do trust the adjustment layer, it adjusts it for all of them.
yeah, so the adjustment layer affects everything below it. And you can see that. So, ready? If I go here, right? If I, for example, turn the temperature way up, right? That's not just affecting the B camera, it's also affecting the A camera. I'm sorry, the B camera and the A camera are both being blown way, way, way too orange. Also, the reason why I love Lumetri color is you can also set the white balance. So if you have a white part of your frame, for example, the frames on his glasses are quite white. That's not English. You can set white balance if you can find a white point. So actually there's a reflection there in his glasses. You hit this little eyedropper and you're able to select that. And it doesn't look like it did anything, but it actually shifted the temperature and the tint slightly away from 0. So now it's more accurate. Again, in this case, the adjustment layer did help with the A camera, but the B camera is still like a little bit far gone. If you'll notice there, not there. Where's my B cam? Right here. Right. This corner over here, again, is still too bright. It's not a pure black. And you could do a lot more with this. You could actually go in and change the B cam. So I'm going to actually click that and do the same thing. Go under the effects panel down here, drag the Lumetri color onto the B footage, basic corrections, and turn down those blacks. And you'll notice that black goes away pretty fast. You can also bring down the shadows. That'll also do a lot. But again, you're just going to want to have to be like really careful about it because again, his hair is gone, right? So a backlight would have done wonders for him, but alas, we don't have that. Any questions so far? We're going to get into audio next.
Can you put explosions in there
Mhm.
and make his head blow up and things like that?
Well,
Effects.
interesting.
Use it as a green screen.
I'm going to talk about green screens next because green screens are cool. Oh my. Okay, we're gonna use. What is it? Jesus. These are horrible. No, I'm just gonna take this.
Practical.
But it's a fair question. Maybe you are filming on a green screen, right? Like for an interview. That's very possible. I wouldn't rule that out.
Can I use the black screen behind him as a green screen?
You can, and I'll show you what'll happen when you do that.
His hair.
No, everything is gonna.
Where do I drag my files to?
Do you see the project panel?
The browser?
Are you guys hot or cold in here?
What?
Are you guys hot or cold?
Neither.
Yeah, it's a good temperature.
Turn that one up.
So say for example we take your idea and use the black as a green screen. Watch what happens when we do that. So if you want to do that, there's actually if you go under video effects and then under keying right here,
Yeah.
right, keying under the video effects in the effects panel.
Mm-hmm.
If you select keying and then
Ask my pad from the green screen.
Luma key,
Mm-hmm.
right? Watch this. Oh wow, it's not even. Nope, I don't actually. Don't use Luma key. Color key. Here we go. And if you select the black,
Mm-hmm.
bring up the tolerance, you'll just see that he just disappears.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Project all right now, yeah. So now I should have dragged things to that spot.
It's weird. But I'm going to get more into that in a second. Keying would not be good on a black background. It's really, really good if you're actually using a green screen or a blue screen or a pink screen, depending on what the person's wearing. Do you know why? Then do you know why?
Because if you're wearing green, I don't know.
Ooh, fun fact. Do you know why people use a green screen over a blue screen 99% of the time?
Because there's more pure, something about pure color, like the eye can see or something like that. No.
Is there just not a lot of like green in the real world like that?
Nope.
Clothes.
There's actually a very strange reason. If you look at any modern camera CMOS whoa, that's spam. If you look at any modern camera CMOS sensor, they actually designed it around green screens. The reason being, 50% of a sensor is green pixels, 25 is red, and 25 is blue. You'll actually be able to see this.
That's kind of ish, not really what I said.
Kind of.
I mean, yeah.
I'm wondering if I can find a good picture of this.
I think I was meaning the sense of like eye, not the. I don't know.
Here. So it's not very clear on this, but there's actually twice as many green as there are red and twice as many green as there are blue. So there's actually more green information for the camera to pick up than the blue or the red. Anyway, that's been downloading. Looks to be done. So if we go into our project panel, double click, green screen assets, import. I'm going to drag those in on video lane 8. Wow, it's really, really small. Also, Jesus, I'm going to mute this actually right now. Oh no, where did that audio go? Audio will override any footage will override any other footage if you drag it on top of it. Meaning, if I was to take this clip here and put it on top, and then try to put it back again, that footage is gone. So don't do that. What I'm going to do is just get rid of the audio, because we don't need it in this case. Scroll up, put it on lane 8. Good. I'm also going to scale that up. And I'm going to find something that I want to use. I'm going to also just mute him. Where's my audio clips?
It does run smooth. I think I'm gonna like it.
I think you will too. Great. So I'm going to film a plane crash, because why not? I'm going to trim this down to this point here, so I can drag that in there, and I'm going to cut it off. What's happening? At this point there. Cut it there. V, delete. Right, so now we have this beautiful piece of B-roll. We're going to do, select it, go under your effects, and I'm going to use color key. Good. Go to the effects controls, color key, select the green. That's weird. Don't use color key. Kidding. I have to find something better. This is easier in After Effects. What's Ultra Key? Let's try that one. You can also just, if you have your clip selected, you can just double click. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, select the green, and the green goes away kind of, but not totally. Output, composite, alpha channel. Nope. Color channel. Nope. Composite. Setting, default. Okay. Matte generation. Let me just go into these settings really quick. That's weird.
Isn't it aggressive under C? Or...
Yeah.
It's like red.
It's easier in like After Effects, but again, because what I'm getting into right now is more video. So I should back up. Premiere is a video compositor, which basically just means it's designed to put clips together and cut them up. After Effects, my personal favorite program in the world, if it wanted to load, which would be a blessing, is more akin to this kind of stuff. So actually what's cool is both of these programs are made by Adobe. So if I was to come in here, and if you're on the Creative Cloud, you also have access to this program. This program was used to make a lot of the Marvel movies, stuff like that. What the hell is that?
It's a cannon.
Oh no, they're smoke grenades. That's cool. All right, so there's the plane, and I'm just gonna cut it right there. This is totally not relevant, but this is kind of cool to look at how keying works. Don't worry about any of this, because there's no real reason that you would need to know this for this class, except like what I'm doing right here. But cool. So what I'm going to do for that, very similar, go into keying, but I'm going to use key light, and I'm just going to get rid of that green. Again, it's not perfect, but so yeah, that's keying. That's how they do green screens. So if you want explosions, now you know. Anything else? Any other questions right now?
Audio.
Audio's next. You done for audio?
Let's do audio.
Let's do audio. All of you, if you have the Adobe Creative Cloud Creative Suite, you have options to download Adobe Audition. This is the program that I'm using here. This is my personal favorite. So I'm going to download, well, so let me find, I did an interview here with my friend Isabel. Where is her footage? Maybe this right here? Nope. So if you just say, I don't know, then it's not going to make any sense. I'm just going to re-import some audio. So what's great about Audition is you can actually grab any video file and just import it, and it'll automatically strip the audio out of the video, so you're just editing the audio.
And when you save it, does it go back to that?
No. So it's saved separately. Let me import something else. Give me a second. Here we go. Great. So this is the pure audio with my friend Isabel.
Actually, my uncle and aunt had a log.
If you notice here, right, what's great about it is it shows you the waveform, but it also will show you the spectral analysis right down here. The lower, the brighter it is down here, the more intense it is. The higher it is, the more high frequency it is. So what this is essentially doing is, if you click there and I play, this is kind of the background noise. Hear that? Turn it up a little bit. We don't really want that. That's going to be a little bit distracting because even as she's talking, yeah, like I'm going to edit. Right. Sorry about it. But to get rid of background static, background noise, like a hum of a generator, whatever, in this program, which you can all download, if you select a certain region as an example of the noise, right click on it, and just do, and again, all of this I'm recording now, so you'll have reference to this later. And if I do a capture noise print, hit Command A to select the whole clip, effects, noise restoration, and noise reduction process, and hit play.
Alright, cool. So, look at me here.
And hit apply. Now all of that static has been mitigated.
Can you do that multiple times?
You can, if you want to. But again, the issue is it's also going to get rid of some of the noise from the people talking, so it might sound a bit echoey. If you notice, my interview with Sofyan sounded really, really echoey. That was because to get rid of the background noise, it also got rid of some of the frequencies from him talking, which can make things sound echoey. Now it does sound a bit better.
You gonna edit this out?
But that's pretty straightforward. That's the real reason why I ever edit the audio, especially for video, is to get rid of background noise. You don't want to cut it up at all because then it'll be out of sync with the video. Wait, what else? What did you just ask me?
Can you do that multiple times?
Yes. This is called Adobe Audition. It looks like this. And if you just downloaded the Creative Cloud, then you have the option to also use this for a 14-day free trial. So yeah, it's pretty good.
I wanted to live in a log cabin because I really like the environment.
That was her dream, by the way, to live in a log cabin. What else should I cover? Audio. Exporting! Fantastic. Great topic. To export audio, very simple. You just select which clip you want to talk about. For example, there's this one, but I don't want that one. I want this one. Command S. Kidding. Command S. Why not?
Let's see.
I'm sorry. Command Shift S. And then why? What's the issue here? This format is unsupported. Oh, whoops. Format. Wave. Better, great. And then I can just save this track to my downloads, and now it's saved. With Premiere, it's a little bit weirder. So now I'm happy with this, with what I have here, this fantastic piece of JSON footage. I'm happy with it. So now I'm going to export it. So I'm going to go up to File, Export Media. Then you wait, and you wait, and then it pops up. So Premiere doesn't actually use the media encoder. It will encode and export in-house is how they call it. All you really need to change here is your output name. Click on that, and you change where it outputs to. So I'm just going to have it saved to the desktop, and I'm going to call it JSON thing. JSON thing. Save. Then it's literally as simple as just hitting export. Mine is huge, and it's going to come out to be about 1.684 megabytes. about 1.5 gigs. So I'm not going to do that right now because as of now, the tutorial that I've been filming is 1 hour and 10 minutes in, and it's 3.21 gigs. Huge. Cancel. Great. That's done, and then it would export, and then you would have your video.
You have to keep Premiere open when it exports.
Yes. Unless, this is important. If you file save as, and save not the actual footage, or not the actual exported video, but if you save the project, see how it's Premiere project, save it to your desktop, save it, it's going to be like instant, right? If you close out, it's gone, right? But now it is on the desktop under other, right here, right? What's cool is if I now go into the media encoder, boot that sucker up,
Can you also manipulate audio files in like Audacity and then just drag them right back in after you?
Yep, totally. Great. So what's cool is in the media encoder, you don't actually need to have the Premiere open to render it. Meaning, if I'm in the encoder, I can do File, Add Source, go to my desktop, and there's the project. If I just hit Open, it loads the project in, and there it is right there. And I just hit, and then I have to click on the output file to name it. I'm gonna save it to the desktop and call it Jason's thing. Save. And you can change some of the settings here. Usually it's preset to H.264, which is an MP4 format. However, if you're feeling ballsy, I shouldn't have said that. If you're feeling bold, you can export in HEVEC. That's H.265. That is the newest MP4 encoding format. Looks a bit nicer. It's a hell of a lot bigger. Your computers sometimes crash when trying to export in HEVEC, but it's up to you. Usually there's less compression, and it looks a lot nicer in my opinion. But I'm going to leave it on H.264 because it doesn't take as long. Hit OK, select the one you want to export, and just hit play. Then it will export.
It'll take a while.
Uh-oh, it froze. Stop. No.
My computer's definitely not going to do this.
So when I use iMovie or Movie Maker and I'm editing a file,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got like multiple video and audio sources I'm using, I've learned that if I move those files to a different location on my computer,
Yep.
then it doesn't find them again.
It's the same thing here.
Oh, okay.